Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, non-classic. This is episode number 31, 38, and Doubleshot number 3032. First of which we have from the series L.E.G.I.O.N. We're discussing issues 16 and 30 of the series, along with number 2. Now, I originally was going to do the 39 because Alan Grant finished up his run at that point, but I should point out, though, that Barry Kitson is his co-writer, who's also the artist of these issues. Yes, also, Kevin McGuire stops being the cover artist of these issues. As for the reason for this, I don't have any idea why he stops being cover artist, but... So in issue 16, Laura Grant, a.k.a. Mon-El of the Legion of Superheroes, who's also at one point was depicted to be Superman's brother, joins the Legion group. He's here for about 3 issues. He gets fired in issue 19. An issue where, let's have Alan Grant write Viral Docs, a leader of the Legion, be a massive dick to his own team. Just cuz. Yeah, and it's all because they had an embarrassing defeat at the hands of Superman. Yeah, because Laura Grant messed up during a fight with Superman because of involving Lobo. Viral Docs is like, yeah, I won't screw up again. And it's like, well, you won't screw up again because you're fired. And also, he talks to his baby mama. Well, basically, the way to describe it is that the whole thing with the child, it's his, but he's being asked to think about it. We also see them rescuing these issues Captain Comet. You're thinking, who the heck is Captain Comet? He is pretty much a superhero from the 1950s, who I think this may have been his first post-Crisis appearance, I think it was. Also, these issues here, the Emerald Eye gets written out of the book. As for the reason for it, I don't know. I do know by issue 18, the character Dragon Raw, the next major villain they had in the book, gets killed off 3 issues after his debut appearance. Yeah. Captain Comet, real name Adam Blake. He's been occasionally around over the years. One thing about this guy is, this way how long he's around, he's never had a solo book. He's had some features in some books, he's been some supporting character, but never had not like an ongoing series or some mini-series for the character. Adam Strange got one, but not Captain Comet. Probably because, unless you're a hardcore comic fan, you probably have no idea who the heck this guy is. He popped up in... So... The whole thing of him being part of the Legion is kind of interesting. So, they rescue him and wants to join the Legion. He's like, fill application. I'm like, really? He doesn't end up joining. Don't worry about that. He does. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how he gets involved with Legion. And the fact that he was heavily part of this group for a long period of time. I guess because he's a cosmic character. Let's throw in Captain Comet. A character who probably by the 90s, not a lot of people probably knew who the heck this guy even was. I think this may have been probably his first post-Crisis appearance since the Secret Origins annual. Yes. Sadly put, basically, by issue 21 for the book, one-time members team dies, being murdered by her own daughter. The character who is the ancestor of Shadow Last lead superheroes. Yeah, she gets murdered. Yeah, this character apparently appeared early on in the Great Darkness Saga, and then Keith Giffen brought this character in just cuz. Oh, and in case you're wondering for Captain Comet, He is part of the group from issue 16 onwards, up until issue 63. But he is very heavily active in this book. Yeah. Also, at one point, the covers are drawn by the artist who draws the Lobo covers. Yes. I guess because Lobo's featured in the book, so why not? Yeah. So, the character of Linda Darkstars, she kind of becomes like a recurring villain at first, and then she becomes part of the recruits. Yeah, but she's technically debuted book issue 8, but appeared very sporadically, and then by issue 21, the character of Lasso Millar, she dies. And she does not come back. Nope, does not come back. Oh, in case you're curious though, when does Captain Comet join the team? He kind of joins the team pretty much basically in issue number, I think it was either 17 or 18 he joins the team. I think it was 18. Yeah. Kevin McGuire does do issue 17. So how many of the covers does Kevin McGuire himself do of this book? An obviously curious question here. The answer is for the book Legion. He did it from the first issue. He did it to issue 18, where it was the last cover he did, into issue 32, and pretty much did it until around 40. He did left with 39. And came back for a couple more issues. But who does basically like covers for 19 to 19 is done by Gary Leach, which let's not look for there. Here we go. He only did the covers for issues 19 and 25. Well, except for 23. He did not do 23. That was done by a completely different artist there. And once again, we're back to fighting the computer tyrants, to fighting this guy called Dragon for a while. And there's a flashback to frickin' Brainiac in issue 23. Yes, Brainiac. Otherwise known as Viral Docs the First. Yeah, Lobo was still doing his own thing. Not exactly with Space Dolphins per se. Self was basically off the team for a bit. Yes, the woman who basically was the mother of Viral Doc's son. Oh, in case you're curious though, when does Brainiac III finally show in the book? He does not make a physical appearance in this book until issue 28. Yeah, that's pretty much the debut of the baby. Oh, and Keith Giffen as the co-writer of the book. I know he has sadly passed away just a couple years ago now. I really wish him this guy would pass away because I love the man's artwork. I love the man's writing and artwork. He was an amazing writer. And Alan Grant passed away a year prior to that. He did. His death, I knew nothing about it. It wasn't any articles about it. I must have missed it. And it's like, oh, Alan Grant passed away. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. Alan Grant passed away until Comic brought it up, the fact he passed away. Because I know nothing about it. There wasn't articles about it because when we have these comic artists pass away, usually there's some kind of thing related to it. And of course, also the Legionnaires themselves do some more like fighting of the computer tyrants. Okay, so alright. Okay, so the answer is for Legion. He does it. He does the first 12 issues. It comes back through his 28th. Probably because basically the thing related to the baby. And then he's done for the book. You're like, really? Yep. Yeah. What does anything else eventually happen? Well, you have Lobo attempting to go on his own in issue number 24. In the 25th issue, by the way, that issue was not done by Barry Kitts, it was done by Jim Verne. 25 was basically Stealth on her own on their planet. And of course, dealing with the Collets. Yes, an alien species created by the awesome Jim Shooter. And were they like recurring villains for the Legion? A little bit. They were first there in the book with issue number issue 11, and they were there for 20, 25, the 24, 27, and they were there for 53. Plus, I love the covers they have here by Dan Borden, who takes over from Ken McGuire as the cover artist for this book. And his tenure in the book is not very long. He does 26, 27, 31, 40 to 42. And that's literally all he does as the cover artist of the book. But his covers are amazing. And of course, Paradox also makes a deal with the Dominators in one of the issues. 29 is a bit of like a relaxing issue. No villains in that one. 30, of course, is basically the big thing as well. You have Phase versus Lobo. Yeah, where Shibutiza beat the crap out of him. Yes. And of course, we have debuted a few new characters, issue 30. Kind of setting up more stuff later on in the Legion of Recruits. I'm on Hook, Veteran Dub, Brob, Duris, Davra Koto, Ignia, Jim Vidlo, Lida Midlar, the one's daughter, Zed Moonstruck, and the first appearance of Maximilian Gold, a evil crime boss who's basically here for like a next year of the book. Yes. But those are those issues, but we're not done just yet. We next to talk about is the annual. The second annual for the series. I believe this was the last annual that Alan Grant wrote that I have discussed yet. He did not do annual number 3. That was Barry Kitson. 4 is done by Mark Wade. That's going to be discussed, that one. And the final annual is done by Tom Payer. This book here, it's mostly put just, Wave Rider reading everybody's minds, figure out who is Monarch. And we have in the future apparently look like Telepath, Garv, Majid Beck, and Darkstar all die in the future. Yeah, it doesn't actually tease anything per se with the book, but Mike Cohen's artwork is amazing in the book. He also has the amazing cover for this book as well. I like other books and wait till I basically get to a certain writer the cover certain annuals. Like in the case of basically the next annual, I'll discuss it next time. But what do I think of Legion? These books are really good. I give these issues, plus the annual, a 9 out of 10. Next up, basically, we have is another sci-fi book. This time being Darkstars. We're discussing issues 18 to 25 Uh, 28 to 31, 33, 35, 36, and 38. So first up we have this three-part known as Eve of Destruction, which is a guest appearance by the Wally West Flash, who teams up with the Darkstars to take on some alien threat. And then, starting with the very next issue, probably because basically the book wasn't selling too well at this point in time, so let's throw in John Stewart to the team along with Donna Troy. They become members of the team. It takes a bit, of course, he starts as a Green Lantern, then becomes a Dark Star in the book. And like I said, no annuals in this book. Not a single one. Yeah, 21 is basically the start of a brand new direction of the book. Like, oh, let's throw in some new characters for reasons. Because after the devastating events of the previous issues, by the way, John Stewart dates the blue alien girl. Also, those portals. Yes, believe it or not, the previous story involving portals. Yes. Now, like I said, 21 has started. It's new era, and Kali. He's a fairly new character. He is here for a very brief period of time. Yeah, he's only here from 21 to 23 and 25. And the last pair of New Titans book. And the Controllers want to recruit these people. So Donna Troy and John Stewart join the team. It takes a bit of time, but they do eventually join the team. While dealing with these Denzi characters. And the book is no longer based... they have issue 22, they go to Mosaic World. You think, wait, Mosaic World? Wasn't the place where Grand Mosaic was basically based on? Kind of, yes. So my guess is they probably threw John Stewart in this book because his book got canceled. So we need someone with John Stewart. So I guess figured, we can't use him in Green Lantern, so throw in Darkstars. To hopefully boost sales because people know who John Stewart is and Donna Troy. So yeah, they Farron Carlos, who had been the founding leader of the team, he quits in this issue. In issue number 23. Oh, he was kicked out of the group. He's only gone for a couple issues before he finally is back in the team. All because basically this guy called L.E.G.I.O.N, this guy here who's apparently the director of the Darkstars, yeah, he basically quits far as the team, but don't worry, he comes back because they pointed out though. Now, issue 24 is basically a lead-in into, I kid you not, 0 Hour, where Superman himself shows up, leading into issue 0, like, oh, let's have a brand new beginning for... But Mike Collins is the artist one. Yeah. Where basically we just deal with more Darkstars. Farron is still off the team. And, of course, basically where Farron wants to basically join the roster. And by 25, he kind of gets back on the roster. Yep. Skipping over 26, 27, because those issues I basically discussed when I discuss New Titans. Because they involve it's a two-part guest appearance by Starfire. In issue 28, they find a guy called Jarrus Minion, who is a fairly new character, who's here for this issue, 32 and 34. 34 being a power crossover. And Simon, an old Teen Titans villain. Yep, who they decided to throw in here because Donna Troy's here, so why not throw in a popular Green Lantern villain for them to take care of? And 29, of course. Well, Farron's still part of the Darkstars, but not exactly back on the team. So, then, of course, they deal with, like, someone called the Crime Lord. Like, the Syndicate. That's who they deal with here. This would lead to a storyline with the New Titans. Issue 30 has basically have Carla White quit the team. Kyle Rayner guest stars in this issue. And then we have in issue number 31, where we have one of the most awesome things ever had in a book. We have the Darkstars versus the Lord of Apocalypse himself, Darkseid. You're like, wow, that sounds awesome. And no, it's not a flashback. They do freaking fight him in the book, which is awesome. Skip over 32 because that was part of a crossover. And it leads to 33, which the whole thing with this story, it leads into a crossover. Yes, it leads into the siege of Zygurum. Yes. However, the guy who basically who fired Farron from the group, but he's killed off in this issue. And basically it's like, yeah. And this whole thing was kind of weird. And then we go with the 34. Actually, with 34 we discussed already. 35. Ooh, let's have basically we have the pretty girl basically do some romantic stuff in the book. And of course we deal with the version of Pharos. We have a flashback to Sarge Steel, Aquaman, and Aqualad, aka Tempest at this point in time. Yeah, this whole thing is like lasts a couple issues, and then we have Wally West appearing in the book once again. And this time they're fighting Evil Star. And Skill 37, which was basically Farron versus Guy Gardner. In the last issue, sadly put, basically we have two final appearances. Basically, this book sadly put me the final appearance of the Darkstars. Are they disbanded with this issue? Because, of course, they just wrap up some loose ends of the book. They got independent organization. Like, what happens with them afterwards? Do they disband? Well, basically, a lot of this Darkstars get killed off in an issue of Green Lantern. Yep. They have fatality murder, a lot of them. And then all the rest were killed off in Adam Strange. Yep, where they killed off pretty much them there. And then, well, they're pretty much all eviscerated by the second volume of Omega Men. Yep. But in the case of what happened to the characters, Donna Troy still hung out with the Teen Titans, obviously. She basically, for some reason, decided to become a briefly supporting character in Green Lantern. This decision, from what I've heard, was not popular with people, where she was dating Kyle. Despite that people did not want her to date Kyle. Kyle wanted they want her to date Kyle date somebody else, not Donna Troy. People want Donna Troy with Roy Harper. It was one of those relationships that was forced upon the readers. Yes, I put out. I did these like top 10 couples are forced. This couple is one of them. Another couple didn't feel like basically stuff was happening. It was like they were there for one issue and then was forgotten about afterwards. That being Medusa and Gorgon. Yes, for some weird reason that Al Ewing thought that was a good idea to do. I do not know why. But they did. But that's how with Darkstars. Pretty much all the remaining ones that are not John Stewart or Donna Troy got killed off in Green Lantern under books. Probably because Michael J. Fram at this point was done with the group, so they decided just to kill them all off. Yep. But what do I think of the book overall? The book was amazing. Didn't necessarily have a bad issue per se. Of course, also the blue girl of the group, she had dating John Stewart for a very brief period of time until they broke up. Actually, she broke up with him just so she could pursue her own thing, and to my knowledge, she was never seen again afterwards. Yeah, they actually at one point did have an apartment together in the Green Lantern book, and then they just broke up. Donna Troy basically, was acting DC Universe, basically go back to Earth, rejoin the Titans, of course, being Green Lantern, obviously. Then she died in Titan/Young Justice graduation day, was dead for about 2 years, brought back here for the Crisis, and still very much active up until Flashpoint, disappeared for a couple years, about 2 or 3 years, and then she was brought back in Wonder Woman by Meredith Finch, where they gave her Wonder Woman's pre-Flashpoint origin story with the whole thing made of clay. I don't know why they did that for, what made her made of clay, which is weird. But John Stewart, on the other hand, he basically still being very heavily active in the Green Lantern books. In part of, the Green Lantern Corner came back in the mid-2000s. Wrote the book for a long period of time. To my knowledge, he never got a solo book. Aside from Mosaic, he never got a solo book after that. Donna Troy, aside from the Return of John from miniseries, she's never had a book of her own. Not even as Wonder Girl. No, she did have a feature in the Becca feature, the pages of Wonder Woman, but she never had a solo book. Not even as Troya. Yeah, her regarding Darkstars, you read this, it's like this was basically DC editorial probably telling Michael J. Fedman to put her in the book because a lot of the characters in the book were completely unknown to readers, and this is probably done to help boost sales. It probably did for a year at best, and it was kind of anything with John Stewart. People know who he was, but the characters, I guess they just weren't people. I guess that DC maybe felt as though they weren't selling, so that's probably the reason we added the group. It helped the dynamics perfectly fine. And I don't know how Michael J. Fedman felt as though about the characters he helped create for the series get killed off in Green Lantern and Adam Strange. I wonder how he felt about it. I don't know if he really even cared, but in case you're curious though, was this practically the only book working on for comics? I believe so, because I've never heard of him working on any other book besides this one book. Yeah, because his comic biography is very little. I mean, this is the only big book he worked on, was this one book. It was like his baby. And why do I feel as though DC killed off the Darkstars? They probably didn't plan them, so let's have them get murdered off screen and found basically a bunch of dead bodies. That's how I kind of thought about it. But is Darkstars a bad book? No. Do I think that Sugar Tree Apex? Yes. Definitely. Along with Legion. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, check notifications. Next up, basically, we have is another comic corner. It's on to My Hero Academia Vigilante. Okay, thanks, bye.